Welcome to my channel. This is Excelsius Project. My name is Nikki. For those of you who don't know me, I went through a really hard time and I had no one to talk to, and I started creating videos for myself to help me cope, and I found that they really helped me. And then I figured maybe there's somebody else out there who is going through something similar that would benefit. So that's how this channel was born. Today I wanted to talk about starting a personal development and healing journey. I wish that I had known and sort of put at the forefront of my mind that healing is not a linear thing. You don't just heal and move on, or just heal a couple of things and move on. It doesn't work that way. And actually, if you're interested in blog articles, I did write one on this very topic. I'll put the link in the description below. But anyways, getting back to this, healing responds to life and the organic nature of chaos. You don't know what life will throw at you, positive or negative, that's going to cause a reaction or a trigger or whatever. There are things that are going to happen in your life that are going to challenge you, and they might bring up old hurts, they might create new ones, and you're going to veer off track. And when it happens, it's very normal and it's okay. Healing and development, it's very much like working out. In fact, I feel like it's all connected. For a healthy, optimal system, everything needs to be in balance. And you're not just one thing. You're a physical body, you have a mind, you have a soul, you have emotions. All these things need to be in balance for you to feel good and fulfilled, and for you to pursue your dreams and all these nice, beautiful things. And if you're off balance, everything suffers. All the things, or one thing will suffer for the other. So anyway, very much like working out, you're going to have days where you have more energy and you've got some really great gains and you're feeling good and you're seeing progress, you're getting stronger, your body's changing. And then you're going to have days where you really don't feel like doing it, you want to quit, and you show up anyway. You don't feel good about it, but you show up anyway. And then in hindsight, you feel good about it, but while you're doing it, you kind of feel like crap. Then you're going to have days where you need a break. You're going to have days where you fall off track. And those days might continue and continue until you completely come off your path. And then you got to find your way back. And you might lose some of the progress that you made. Maybe to the point where you have to start from scratch. It happens. And I wish that I had known to expect the unexpected, that it's very much this organic response to the chaos and roller coaster of life. And the other thing that I really wish that I had told myself is that if you veer off track or take a step back, you can always find your way back to your path. Always. And you can get to where you once were, and you can even surpass it. And I didn't tell myself this, so when I started healing and doing all this work, and then I took a couple of hits, I was sort of okay, but then I took a few more hits and I fell off track, and I got really, really, really angry, and I had a very hard time coming back to myself because I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't gentle with myself. And had I had those things in mind, I would have come back to myself a lot quicker. It would have been a lot more gentle. So I hope that that's something that you keep at the forefront of your mind as you progress along, and that you're gentle with yourself when you veer off track. It's okay, it's normal, it happens. And you're going to have days where it's okay to allow yourself to feel what you're feeling and to be blue. I don't believe in suppression, it's not healthy. You need to have days like that sometimes to be able to get things out. Now, whatever it was that brought you to this journey, this adventure that you're about to undertake, you must have been feeling really uncomfortable for you to be willing to make change, because we are creatures that are sort of zombified, willing to go with the flow and suffer whatever it is that we're going through, because it's better the devil you know. And it's not, but that's how we are. We don't like being uncomfortable, so we become comfortable with whatever the arrangement is, because we're scared to, for whatever reason or reasons, we're more scared of the unknown than we are of the current hell that we're dealing with. So I commend you, and this is fantastic, and there's going to be a lot to look forward to. One of the other things that I want to give as advice is you need to find a way, or I highly recommend that you find a way to create a log or a record of your journey. Because when you start writing everything down, there's sort of like this data dump that has to happen, this data mining. You need to comb through all this information. It's going to help you remember things. It's going to help you keep track of things. Sometimes in the midst of emotion, there's a lack of logic. We're not really in our mind. I mean, even though we are in our mind, we're not truly in our logical state. We're in a very emotional state. And it's very easy to miss things or forget about things. Our analytical mind isn't as present, or we're overly analytical because we're so emotional. There's an emotional response there that doesn't keep us cool and level-headed. So if we can start writing it down, taking notes, making videos, voice notes, whatever it is that you feel comfortable with, to be able to have this outpouring of information will really, really help you to start analyzing that data, recall these events, these triggers, these things that are holding you back, so that you can actually look at it when you're more level-headed, and then you can start to look for the patterns that are going on in your life, that you are repeating. You will start to see that there might be threads that you can pull at to unravel. There will be patterns. There will be things that you are doing, repeated cycles that are happening. You might find that maybe there's a person or a situation or something you're doing or allowing that is causing blockages or causing you to stay in the stagnant place in your life. So you need to be able to record everything, do a data dump, an emotional purge of all this information, and then you need to sort of make sense of it. And stream of consciousness journaling is really, really good for that. But then there also needs to be an intentional, structured approach as well. You need to have exploratory questions that you ask yourself so that you can face yourself, learn about yourself, so you can discover yourself, good and bad. You need to explore the things that have hurt you, that have bothered you, that have held you back. You need to explore your fears, your things, the things that make you angry. And then you also need to, on the positive side, you need to also explore those things too. What makes you special? What do you feel are your strengths? What potential do you feel that you have in you? What are your dreams, your aspirations? There needs to be balance in this written record, because essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to discover what's holding us back and hurting us, what we allow to have happen, and to find a way to shift our mind now. And then we need to start thinking about a way to set goals and strive for better and want more for ourselves, because there's an evolution that's about to take place. That's the whole point. We want to progress from one state into a better state that brings us more fulfillment, peace, happiness, whatever it may be. So you need to be able to do this, and to keep a record of it as well isn't just going to serve as this exploratory assessment type thing. It's also going to help you progress, and it's going to give you something to look forward to when you have those blue days and those days where you veer off track, because you can go back to this log, this record, this data, and you can see how far you've come. It'll keep you motivated to keep going. Or on the bad days, you'll be able to come back to this information and you can be like, okay, I can do it again. I have it in me. I got there. I can do it again. So, very important that you do that. I highly recommend it. Whatever form that you want to do it in, it will definitely be a fantastic tool. Everybody's journey might be different. I'm just sharing what I experienced in case these types of scenarios or situations or events sort of happen to you too. And if they do, then maybe this will help you a little bit. So, what started me healing truly, because every time something has happened in my life, I always want to improve. No matter what's going on, I learn from everything. I do not like things to repeat themselves. In fact, my biggest anxiety nightmare are those movies where the character wakes up in the same day, in the same cycle, and then he keeps going to sleep or dying and waking up to the same day until he figures out whatever it is he needs to figure out. That is my nightmare. Like, I hate dealing with that. I don't want to deal with that. When things start to happen again, when patterns start to emerge again, I get very upset. And if you're somebody who has had a low self-esteem or who has had bad relationships, like, you'll start to notice, whether it's a romantic relationship or friends or a work situation, if there's something not right in those relationships and those bonds, you're going to notice that it's different faces, same people, same characteristics. It's like you're dating the same guy over and over again, or the same girl or whatever. Or like if you go to work and you're trying to progress in your career, you're encountering the same issues over and over again. And when that type of thing happens, we need to look at ourselves, because there's something that we are doing or not doing that is giving maybe a subconscious cue, or it's saying something that we're not aware of, and we need to look at ourselves. What are we allowing to happen? And I'm not saying that everything that happens to you is your fault, or that you allow everything, but there is, to a degree, a subconscious embodiment of the things that we think about and believe about ourselves that comes out in our physical expression. And people notice, and they pick up on it either consciously or subconsciously, and it affects us. So when I started my healing journey, I started noticing big patterns that were going on. They were repeating, and I couldn't have those patterns keep happening. I knew I needed to look at myself. And at the beginning, I was obviously very sad and I got very angry. And the thing is with anger will either hold you back and cause damage, create chaos, or you can channel that intense feeling and you can use it as a tool to create momentum and to move you forward. And I learned how to do that because there was no other alternative, really. And, based on my personal ethics, it was just something that was not okay. I wasn't going to let anybody beat me or keep me down. I used that feeling to move me forward. And I am somebody who's very passionate, very intense, and I have a rebellious nature. So for me, having that anger really helped me transmute that unhealthy aspect of it into something that was very transformative and healing. I allowed that anger to be like, well, no, I want better for myself. I can do this. I'm not going to let this happen. And I challenged that anger into working out, healing, doing better, being better, like all those things. And then the next thing that happened, the next step that sort of happened for me, because I felt like I had no sense of self-worth. And the next thing that happened was I started to see myself as somebody who had value. And now that I'm at a different point in my journey, I have very different feelings about the word value. But I feel like it's a natural first step for somebody who's a people pleaser, who has a low self-esteem. You're so accustomed to feeling worthless and like a waste of space and self-loathing that you don't see yourself as somebody who is worthy of anything, who is deserving, who has any sense of value. And it's just not true. Everybody has value. Everybody is deserving. Everyone has a right to feel loved and to be respected and to take up space. And so for me, the next step was learning how to love myself and how to be okay with myself. And thinking of yourself in terms of value is sort of a very initial first step into starting to feel healthy. Then I started to learn how to speak up because I was starting to feel better about myself. And I learned how to create some distance. I was able to set boundaries. I was able to say, like, you know what, I need some space, I need some time. You know, I became more vocal. I didn't just say yes. I didn't just go with the flow. And in having that space, that bubble around me, it created a lot of peace. And it gave me an opportunity to really start thinking about things and digesting what was going on. And the next beautiful thing that happened in that little bubble of peace was that I started to become very, very grateful for all the little things. Like after you go through some shit, and then little things come into your life that bring you joy and peace and tranquility, they are so incredibly special. Like the littlest things mean the most to you. And that's a really, really nice, beautiful thing that happens on your path to healing. So that's something to look forward to. After that, I started becoming so positive. Like, I was elated. I was feeling good. I was so concerned with being positive. I think it almost became a little bit unhealthy because I think maybe I was still suppressing some things. I was so concerned with staying positive all the time and manifesting good things and all the stuff that there were still things that needed to be dealt with, that I still needed to work on, that I needed to give active daily attention to, that I wasn't maybe dealing with because I had this newfound happiness, this newfound positivity. And it was really lovely, it was great, but being so ultra positive that you're not being realistic as well can be harmful. It can be toxic. There's a suppression that happens. So I'm not one for positive toxicity. Like I don't believe in positive all the time. Everything is in harmony. Everything is in balance. Darkness and light need to be in balance. Both have healing aspects to them, and both of them have detrimental aspects to them. The light can blind you, but it can also reveal things. The dark can ground you, and it can also conceal things. Both have something to offer. Both of them work in harmony. So I have different ideas on things. But anyways, those are videos for other days. Now what happened was, with all this positivity, I started attracting all these people into my life, and they seemed lovely. They were fantastic. I felt so blessed. And in hindsight, I don't know that... Anyway, I'll tell you what happened. So these people came into my life. They seemed lovely. And then I started to notice that they were people who had similar things to my past. They had my history, my stories, the events that happened to me had happened to them. They were like me, but I started noticing that they were stuck. And they were broken like I was. And they weren't where I wanted to be or where I was at that point. I'm ready to start healing and to working on myself and to wanting better, and I'm focused. And I was attracting broken people who were still trying to be predatory or take advantage or conceal. And they had their own agenda. Some of them were predatory, some of them were just broken. And I was attracting all of this, and it was very difficult for me because I'm trying to move forward. I'm trying to do all the things to improve my life and improve myself, and I'm attracting all these old patterns, these old types of people into my life, and I'm like, I didn't understand what was going on. And that was very, very difficult for me. But I think in hindsight, sometimes what happens is as you start healing, it's almost like you go through a type of awakening. Like you're noticing things differently. You're more observant. You're catching on to things quicker, and so you don't perceive people in the same way as you used to. You now see them in a more but you start to see the bigger picture. Whereas, before, I think maybe I was naive and I was just so happy somebody would want to be my friend or talk to me or whatever. I wasn't seeing all of it. But now I'm picking up on things that I don't think I would have previously. So that's sort of what I experienced. And when it happened, I was devastated. Now, some of these people just walked out of my life naturally, but for some of them, I had to walk away. And then I went into a type of isolation. And I don't know if any of you have ever heard of God's waiting room, but I discovered that term and I really liked it. And in fact, it seems quite appropriate because it feels very supernatural. Like there's something very strange about entering this solemn, quiet solitude, this period in your life where you self-isolate or you're put into isolation, and it feels like divine intervention. Now, I'm very, very, very spiritual. And in this period, in this instance, in God's waiting room, like, if you are spiritual, that's where you really confront your spirituality. That's where you really meet yourself. That's where you discover what you're made of, where you decide where you're headed. Is still going through it a little bit. It's one of the hardest things I've ever experienced. It is so painful and it is so lonely, and it made me face some very, very heavy things, and I felt like there was no one I could really talk to at all. And if you're not spiritual, you might still experience something like this. This is why I'm talking about it. You might experience this plateau, this area of your life that is just so incredibly quiet and painful, and there's nowhere else to go, no one to talk to, and so you have to confront yourself. But for those of us who are spiritual, I do want to talk about it for a second, because it was this really interesting thing that happened, and I call my creator, I call him, her, them, whatever, I call them God. It's what I'm comfortable with. And I approach my relationship with God as though God were my very best friend, and I bring everything to God, everything. I talk to God like I would my dearest friend. I cuss with God. I bring God my happiness, my hopes, my dreams, my rage, my requests, my fear. When I'm angry at God, I bring that to God. I have had days I have screamed at God, cussed with God, cussed at God, like just angry. And I've never given up on God, but there were days I wanted to. And I felt like it would be easier to, but I just have this pull towards my spirituality. I feel like there is something there, and I can't walk away from it. It's been there for me in some of the hardest times of my life. But being in this quiet period where you feel lost and misunderstood, and you're hoping, like, it was very, very difficult. I felt like I kept trying and I kept going and nothing was working. And then I just found myself all alone with all these thoughts, and I had no one to talk to, and all I had was God. That's all I had. And it was really, really hard. It was really, really hard to go through that. And I still experience it. I'm still in God's waiting room. But in being in that room, being in that quiet and that solitude with no one to really connect with, it helped me find my strength. It helped me face the things that I'm really terrified about. It helped me question life's bigger questions. So I feel like it's this really strange place in life where you're very isolated, and your old life, there's no room for it. And your new life is just on the other side of that waiting room. And there's something really exciting about that. But while you're waiting, especially in a world like ours that is just moving at a constant pace, quick, 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 you look around, everybody is putting on a show of some type and everybody's wearing masks. You don't know what's real, what's fake. But, it's easy to fall into the narratives and into these scenes that people create, to see people doing well and smiling and laughing, relationships, people having homes, and you want to be at a particular point in your life and you feel like you've taken some huge steps back and you're never going to get to that, and it becomes very difficult. And it's not that you become bitter, it's not that you're jealous, but you start feeling sorry for yourself. And it's very difficult. It's very difficult when you're all alone and you're feeling like you've got no one, but you have yourself. And that's what that room does. You don't realize how much strength you have, how much resilience. You don't realize your fortitude. You develop a sense of ethics for yourself. You think about everything that you have been through. And then you start thinking about the kind of person that you want to become. You start setting goals for yourself. And all you have is this vision for how things are going to get better, no matter how hard they're going right now. And in having that time with yourself and with your Maker, you somehow start to find the hope. It feels like there's a storm going on in that room, this invisible storm. It's like you're in the center of a hurricane and it's all quiet and peaceful, and all around you there's chaos. You're surrounded by this wall of chaos and you're not able to break through yet, but just on the other side of that is paradise. It's something else, it's something better than what you had before and better than what you have now. And it's a surreal thing to experience, but it's very rewarding, and it's terrifying, and it's painful, and it's lonely. And it's a loneliness that no one can touch. No one can touch it. It's loneliness that you have to confront deep within you, that only you can fill. Only you can fill it. Only I can fill that pain that I have inside. I create the life that I want to have. The work that I do will lead me into paths. They are seeds that have been planted, that are waiting to germinate. Some of them will grow, some of them won't. Some of them will develop into trees, some of them will stay small little plants, seedlings, whatever analogy you want to give yourself. But it's sort of like that. It's It's opportunities that are happening in that room that you are giving yourself for your future. Allow yourself the grace to progress forward and to allow yourself to become the vision of you that is the best version of you. So next time we're going to continue talking about healing journeys, but we're going to be talking about carrying pain. If that's something that seems interesting to you, tune in next week. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If it resonated with you and you liked it, please hit like and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. If you are interested in blog articles and poetry, I have a few posted on my website, public facing, and I also offer a $10 a month membership for access to stuff that is a lot more personal, less filtered, but heavier. So if you're interested, I'll put the links down below. Thank you, and until next time.